Book of the Mechanism of Salvation, translated by Charles Johnston. Psychic and spiritual powers may be inborn, or they may be gained by the use of drugs, or by incantations, or by fervor, or by meditation. The transfer of powers from one vesture to another comes through the flow of the natural creative forces. The apparent immediate cause is not the true cause of the creative nature powers, but, like a husbandman in his field, it takes obstacles away. Vestures of consciousness are built up in conformity with the position of the feeling of selfhood. In the different fields of manifestation, the consciousness, though one, is the effective cause of many states of consciousness. Among states of consciousness, that which is born of contemplation is free from the seed of future sorrow. The works of followers after union make neither for bright pleasure nor for dark pain. The works of others make for pleasure or pain, or a mingling of these. From the force inherent in works comes the manifestation of those dynamic mind images which are conformable to the ripening out of each of these works. Works separated by different nature, or place, or time, are brought together by the correspondence between memory and dynamic impression. The series of dynamic mind images is beginningless because desire is everlasting. Since the dynamic mind images are held together by impulses of desire, by the wish for personal reward, by the substratum of mental habit, by the support of outer things desired, therefore, when these cease, the self-reproduction of dynamic mind images ceases. The difference between that which is past and that which is not yet come, according to their natures, depends on the difference of phase of their properties. These properties, whether manifest or latent, are of the nature of the three potencies. The external manifestation of an object takes place when the transformations are in the same phase. The paths of material things and of states of consciousness are distinct, as is manifest from the fact that the same object may produce different impressions in different minds. Nor do material objects depend on a single mind, for how could they remain objective to others if that mind ceased to think of them? An object is perceived or not perceived according as the mind is, or is not, tinged with the color of the object. The movements of the psychic nature are perpetually objects of perception, since the spiritual man, who is the lord of them, remains unchanging. The mind is not self-luminous, since it can be seen as an object, nor could the mind at the same time know itself and things external to it. If the mind be thought of as seen by another more inward mind, then there would be an endless series of perceiving minds and a confusion of memories. When the physical nature takes on the form of the spiritual intelligence by reflecting it, then the self becomes conscious of its own spiritual intelligence. The psychic nature, taking on the color of the seer and of things seen, leads to the perception of all objects. The psychic nature, which has been printed with mind images of innumerable material things, exists now for the spiritual man, building for him. For him who discerns between the mind and the spiritual man, there comes perfect fruition of the longing after real being of the self. Thereafter, the whole personal being bends towards illumination, toward eternal life. In the internals of the battle, other thoughts will arise, through the impressions of the dynamic mind images. These are to be overcome, as it was taught that hindrances should be overcome. He who, after he has attained, is wholly free from self, reaches the essence of all that can be known, gathered together like a cloud. This is the true spiritual consciousness. Thereon comes surcease from sorrow and the burden of toil. When all veils are rent, all strains washed away, his knowledge becomes infinite, little remains for him to know. Thereafter comes the completion of the series of transformations of the three nature potencies, since their purpose is attained. The series of transformations is divided into moments. When the series is completed, time gives place to duration. Pure spiritual life is, therefore, the inverse resolution of the potencies of nature, which have emptied themselves of their value for the spiritual man, or it is the return of the power of pure consciousness to its essential form.